So today I thought it would be fun to share with you my favorite mysteries and thrillers because it's that time of the year. I feel like we all feel like we just want to get cozy by the fire with a nice blanket and a good mystery or thriller book. Now, mysteries and thrillers are probably my favorite kind of books. That being said, I haven't read a ton of them. I must have read maybe 30 to 35, so I'm far from being an expert, but I thought today I would share some of my favorites. These are great books to get you started in the genre. So I have a couple of physical books as well as a little cheat post-it with all the ones that I read on my Kindle or listened to as an audiobook. So let's start with my favorite author, which is Gillian Flynn. I'm never sure how you say her first name, but I have 3 of her books. I've actually read all of her books and I've heard that she has a new one coming up soon, so I'm really excited. So Gillian Flynn is really the one that got me hooked onto thrillers and mystery, because back in the day, you might remember this book, which is probably her most famous one. This is Gone Girl, and it was so hyped up back in the day that I decided to pick it up, and I don't think I've ever read a thriller or mystery at that point. And I picked up this book and I fell in love with it. Up to that point, I was convinced that I hated that genre book, but I picked up Gone Girl and I was hooked on the story. I've watched the movie. I think it's a great adaptation, and it's really this book that got me started on the genre. So 2 other of her books that I really like. My favorite one by her is definitely Sharp Objects. I believe it has been adapted into a TV show, I believe, but I've never watched it. But this is my all-time favorite books of her. I think I have read it probably 2 times. It's just a fantastic story. It's basically a journalist that comes back to her hometown because there has been a series of crime, and she just wants to get back and just investigate the story a little bit more. And we are basically inserted into her family history, her difficult relationship with her mother, and we learn a lot. And it's very dark, but it hits all the right places, and it's a great book. Another one that I absolutely adore and that I'm really trying to make my husband read it, because it is a very short read. It's about 80 pages long. It's The Grown-Up. I've read this one in an hour and it was a roller coaster ride. Let me tell you, you will feel so many things reading this book. So this is the story of, I believe, Susan. Yes, Susan moves into a new house with her husband and her stepson, so the son of her husband, and then creepy things start happening in around the house and around the stepson, and it's just creepy, and you have so many twists that you won't see coming in this book. This is a fantastic read, and if you're not sure if thrillers and mysteries are for you, this is a great introduction because it's only 80 pages, and trust me, it's one of the best books I've ever read. So after reading Gone Girl, I really wanted to get into the genre a bit more, and back in the day, that book was just as hyped as Gone Girl. This is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I love this book. I read it a summer, I think it was 4 years ago or something crazy like that, and I really enjoyed it. I read it within a couple of days just because I was hooked on the story. So this is the story of Rachel, and Rachel catches the train to go to work in London every single day, and she always stares out the window and she sees this beautiful woman that she kind of starts stalking. She imagines things about her life, and she's really kind of creepy about her, and she's always trying to catch a glimpse of her whenever her train passes by. The thing is that Rachel is really unstable. She's drinking a lot, and then one day that woman that she has been spying on from the train disappears, and she gets tangled in the story, and this is just so good. I didn't see the twist at the end coming just because I believe it was my second book after Gone Girl, so I was expecting kind of a Gone Girl story, but it was a fantastic read. I've watched the movie, which I love. I actually watched it for the second time this summer with a friend that has never seen it, and she really enjoyed it. That being said, I wished they adapted the movie in English, in England, because this is happening. I believe she's commuting to London every day. I'm convinced that it's happening in England, and to me, having lived in England, British people catches the train a hell lot more than people in the States. At least that's how I feel like it's happening. So I really love that aspect of the story because I could really relate to, and I know that it's a fact that a lot of British people catch the train to go to work and back every single day. So that makes it even more real. So this is a great book if you want to get started on the genre as well. This is another book that I read this summer. This is by Ruth Ware, and I started getting interested in this author through Books and Lala's videos. She talks a lot about Ruth Ware. I believe it's one of her favorite authors, and I started my introduction to Ruth Ware with The Woman in Cabin 10. I also read another book from her, which is In a Dark Dark Wood, which I really enjoyed as well, but I saw the ending coming from miles and miles away, just because I've been reading quite a few of these kind of books and sometimes you can predict the twist. That being said, I didn't see it coming in this one. This one is so good. So this is the story of a journalist that gets invited to a cruise shortly after she was attacked in her apartment by a burglar. So she goes onto the cruise. It's a very small ship, but it's very luxurious. There's only a handful of people invited. There are journalists and photographers and all of that. So she gets onto the cruise, and on the very first night, she hears someone being thrown overboard, and she's convinced that someone has died, has been murdered in the cabin next to hers. But the next day she discovers that no one on the boat is missing, neither from the invitees, the crew, or the captain. No one is missing. So she spends the rest of the cruise trying to untangle this mystery. She doesn't really know if she can trust herself because she has been drinking quite a lot and taking medication to help with her anxiety. And this book is so good. I didn't see the twist coming and I just loved it so much. So next, moving on to my list of books that I don't have a physical copy of. One of the most recent one that I've read, I've actually listened to the audiobook, and I was hooked. I just loved that book so much. It's by far one of the best books I've read this year. It's Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. Wow, that book is a roller coaster. So this is the story of a woman that met a man and she kind of hooks up with him, and then the very next day or the next week she discovered that it's actually her new boss at her work, and that guy is actually married, and somehow she ends up being friends with his wife, and everyone is kind of hiding everything from everyone. So the wife doesn't tell the husband that she knows someone that works with him, and then the person doesn't tell her boss that she met his wife and that they are becoming friends. And this is so creepy but so good at the same time. I remember, I think it was the final hour of the audiobook. I was actually working and I stopped working and just listened to it because I was on the edge of my seat and I couldn't do anything else than listening to the story and see how it ends. So if you really want to try something epic, I highly recommend this book, and the audiobook is great as well. Another book that I read this year is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I believe in England it's called The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. It's by Stuart, Turton, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about this book. It's basically someone that wakes up one day, I believe he wakes up in a forest, and he cannot remember anything. He doesn't know who he is. The only thing that he remembers is screaming Anna. So he goes back into a manor, I believe it's called Hardcastle Manor. Anyway, he goes back to this big manor and there are a ton of people there to attend a party that night, which is the night that Evelyn Hardcastle dies, because we know that from the start she dies that night at a certain time. And the plot twist in this one is that this person has 7 days to figure out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. The twist being that every single day he wakes up on the same day but in a different host. So every day he's a different person, he has the same kind of soul, but he wakes up in a different person's body. So we get to see the murder and the story from 7 different points of view, and it is so good. It's really confusing, so if you are like me, struggling to remember the name, I highly suggest that you do a little cheat sheet and just write down everyone's name, because that was a bit tricky because there was a lot of people. This was my first experience in that kind of stories, but I really enjoyed it, and I believe it is a bestseller for a good reason. So another book that I really want to mention is Fractured by McKenzie. I believe I read that book last year and I really enjoyed it. So this is the story of Julie. And Julie moves across the country with her husband and her kids because she has been harassed following the publication of one of her books, and she gets a creepy stalker following her. So she moves across the country and she gets involved into this new neighborhood, and she becomes friends with one of her neighbors, and soon the creepy stuff happens again and she gets harassed again and she cannot figure out what's going on. And I really like this book. It wasn't a 5 stars, it was a 4 stars for me, but it was something else to try, and I really like the fact that we get snippets of the books that she was writing into that book, so I really like that. The last book that I want to mention was actually a 3 stars for me, but I took away 1 star just because I hated the last couple of pages. I hated the ending of that book so much that I took away 1 star, but nonetheless I believe it is a good book and maybe the ending will work for you. So that is Her Name Was Rose by Claire Allan. So this is the story of a woman that witnesses a car accident and a woman losing her life, and then she developed this kind of obsession with that woman because she had exactly the kind of life that she was dreaming of. She has the perfect husband, she had a kid, she had a great job, and then somehow this lady that witnessed the accident decided to get the life of Rose, who is the one that got killed in the accident. So she starts doing really creepy things and she gets tangled in really dark things, and I really like that book except for the ending, but that might be something that you would enjoy more than I did. So there you go, those are my favorite thriller and mysteries book. I really hope that you enjoyed this little introduction into the genre if you've never read it before, or if you just feel like picking up a really creepy book that time of the year. I really definitely have a ton more on my reading list. If you want to catch up with my reading, I do have a Goodreads account that I really update anytime I'm reading. So it's just goodreads.com/Axelle. Otherwise, I'm always updating you on either Instagram or on my blog. So if you want to follow along, make sure to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!